Good evening, Wrestling World. It is January 13th here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast on another Wednesday night, AEW up against NXT. Big night tonight. I'm Justin LaBar, being joined by Alfred Konuwa, who's been a new recent Wednesday night stable. Alfred, hello. And Wrestling Inc.'s owner, proprietor, the man that makes it all happen, Raj Giri. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
What's going on, guys?
Well, tonight was night 2 of the New Year's Smash for AEW. NXT is countering it with the first week of the Dusty Rhodes Classic tournament. For the men, they also announced that there'll be a Dusty Rhodes Classic for the women, just showing off all the depth they have. So we'll get into both. Let's start with AEW, and we kick it off with a singles match. Not always common in AEW, but we'd actually get 2 singles matches to kick it off. The first being Pac up against Eddie Kingston. Of course, each having their respective cornermen, Pac with Phoenix and Penta El Zero, and Eddie Kingston having the Blade, the Butcher, and the Bunny. This is a very intense matchup, as you imagine. Both these guys intense characters. A good little bit of backstory and beef leading into this. Ultimately, though, Pac would end up getting the pinfall out of this. And he gets the pinfall, and then he puts on a submission hold afterwards on Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston's calling in for help from the from his buddies, and then as we get that big standoff, here comes Lance Archer out with Jake Roberts, and Lance Archer gets in the ring, and he gets rid of Kingston's guys just by a simple stare down. They back off, but then has a little hostility with Pac and Phoenix and Penta. So not really sure what to make here. Lance just made this jump over to babyface recently. I'm interested in him, but I still don't exactly know what I'm supposed to be taking away from this. Raj, what did you get?
Real quick, Justin, there are a couple people in the chat are saying your audio is a little loud. Are you on your mic right now, or is it your?
I'm on this one. I pulled it up.
All right, let me see if I could. I don't think I can adjust that from here. You know what? I thought this was really good. It wasn't a blowaway match, but I thought it was a strong opener. I think, I mentioned this on Twitter. Eddie Kingston's one of those guys that. He has only had one singles win on Dynamite this whole time. And he still comes across as a major star because of what he has been able to do on the mic and just anytime he's on that screen where he feels like one of the top guys. So Pac beating him, it meant something. So I thought it was a good opener. AEW, they overdo these brawls at the after the match. It's one thing to do one or two, but once in a while, but I mean, there are multiple each show, and you just kind of forget what's going on after a while. You kind of get numb to it, and I kind of felt that way here.
I really like this match. I like how they've built it up. I like the back and forth. I think they've done a good job establishing Kingston as a heel and Pac as a babyface, but it's funny because the visual of seeing just a shredded super athlete Pac beating down Eddie Kingston, who just looks like an everyman, and when he talks, he's so good at getting you on his side. It really made it hard for me to root for Pac. I was going for Eddie Kingston. And to your point, Raj, he is a big star. He always comes off as a pretty big star, but I did like this match. I like that they built it up and then finally had kind of the blow off tonight, and it was a really good win for Pac.
Yeah, I'm glad they have Pac back, and I'm glad he's back with the Lucha Brothers. I think that was a real fine pairing when it started, and then the world fell apart and everything separated them. So I'm glad they're back, and it makes a lot of sense. And again, Lance Archer. So much money written all over him. Not to say this storyline's beneath him or that he won't do something exciting in it, but I feel like they haven't even begun to tap into what they could be with him. So,
real quick, at the end of this, did the Lucha Brothers come out at the end of this too, or no? Because they came out later at the end of that at the end of the Good Brothers match, but I can't remember if they came out at the end of this.
They were at ringside with Pac.
Yeah, I think they were there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So 2 brawls for them, but they didn't actually brawl tonight.
No,
in this segment. Okay.
No, and $5 super chat from Brett Murphy. Damn, Raj, love the great beard. Raj Claus taking over next December.
Oh,
man. Beard.
Got to hit the what was it? The Just for Men.
Well, yeah, exactly. Trying to get that Just for Men sponsor.
I think they sponsored WrestleMania 10, Cy Sperling and all.
Yeah. If only I didn't have a full head of hair. Wasn't that That was WrestleMania 10, right?
Yeah, they put the toupee on Fink.
Yeah, it wasn't just for men. It was the men's club,
hair
club for men,
hair club for men.
Yeah.
Very nice. Is the audio better, by the way?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Apologize to everybody. All right, moving on. Like I said, second singles match to follow this. I can't remember in Dynamite history if they've had 2 singles matches in a row. Not complaining, but they're just so tag and 6-man heavy. This one is Miro with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford in his corner up against Chuck Taylor, who has Orange Cassidy. Now, the stipulation here is if Chuck Taylor loses to Miro, he becomes a proud boy. He becomes the butler, the servant, whatever you want to call it, to Miro. Kind of random, but we'll touch on that in a second here. But this is a match where off the bat, Chuck just all the offense. I mean, just throwing Miro around, has all the offense. This, of course, is set up for the cutoff spot where Miro then just takes control and kind of after this point makes quick work, hitting his finisher. I'm not sure what they call it in AEW. I remember it was the Accolade when he was Rusev. I'm not sure what he called it here.
God, what is that called?
Yeah, but he basically, the guy's on his belly, he sticks his foot in their back and then does the camel clutch.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, though, Miro gets the victory with it, and then that's that. So now they end up basically just dragging Chuck away, and Chuck is now under Miro's apprehension and servitude. So Alfred, I mean, Miro looks good. This is the eyes, the physique, the gear. He looks good, but do you care that Chuck is now?
Not necessarily. The only takeaway I had of this is when Miro was on offense, this is the guy that I want to see. He looked like a monster. They did a good job there. However, I don't like the funny stuff with Miro. I don't like the going forward with this young boy angle where now, Chuck Taylor's probably going to just infiltrate the wedding and sabotage or whatnot. But the less Miro involved with this comedy wedding, the better. I cannot get into this character. And at the time of him signing, when he was revealed to be signed with AEW, this was one of, to me, the signings that I looked forward to the most. And now I think it's the worst thing on AEW, which, AEW has a lot of great stuff. So maybe it's a high bar to get to, but I don't care about this stuff at all.
Yeah, I thought Miro looked great. I thought they need more of this, him just killing people. I think, and people in the chat pointing out,
it's young Raj. I wanted to let you speak, but I wanted to quickly apologize to Chuck. He's a young boy now, not a proud boy. I've been watching way too much news this week.
Too much, yeah. The news is in our brains.
That's a storyline I'm into. If they did something, I would at least be interested. Okay, let's see what they do with here.
But can you explain to me why Chuck Taylor would take this step when there's nothing reciprocated? Where it's like, yeah, I'll be your butler for a month, but you don't have to do anything if I beat you. It should be. And people are saying, oh, well, it was to get him out of his face. That is the dumbest excuse I've heard. Either that makes him a total dunce, or it's just lazy storytelling. But I just thought there was no reason for him to accept the stip without wanting something in return.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not like Miro would have been afraid to face him anyway. So it's he would have gotten a match with Miro regardless.
I agree.
Lazy.
Yeah, it is lazy, and there's it wouldn't take but a 5-minute creative meeting, additional meeting to say, okay, well, what does Chuck want? Chuck could say, Miro, I want you to be my big bad thug of a servant, or I want Kip to be my servant. I want to date with Blondie here. It doesn't take long just to come up with something. So that way you truly do feel like, all right, it could go either way. But when there's one stipulation, it's kind of like Brian Pillman versus Goldust, and if I win, I get Terry Runnels for 30 days. It becomes obvious. You know who's winning at this point.
Right.
So
yeah, Ethan Kramer on Twitter, he had tweeted something to me, suggesting the storyline, where he does ask, say, like, if I beat you, Penelope Ford, I get a date with her, ends up getting the date, she ends up smitten with him, just doing something to,
which would be interesting because I think they've set the wedding date for like early February. So we're approaching the point to where this is the perfect time to start to get chaos and right. What have you leading up to because no wrestling altar ever goes smooth. So.
Right. Yeah, it almost seemed like Savage and Elizabeth did that night when you left SummerSlam. You thought it did.
So you got to the reception.
Until the next week.
Yeah,
next week you saw the reception and it was chaos.
Watch the presents you open at the reception. Ryan W, $5. I'm a fan of AEW. It feels like the big guys in the company, Cage, Archer, can't get booked to win anything. Disappointing. Yeah, Ryan, I can't help but to disagree with you. I mean, even Wardlow, despite adding another name, even despite his good victory against Hager last week, even prior to that, the other big match he had was Cody. He looked good, but Cody beats him, and just the general booking. They don't seem like they get fully behind the big man to have like a consistent push.
And I think that's a huge mistake with AEW because they have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to talented big men. And I've said this before, they have that FTW title that Cage carries around that means nothing. Why not make that like a super heavyweight de facto big man title? You don't even have to call it anything. Just make that the title that Will Hobbs and Brian Cage and all these big men that they have compete for if they're not doing anything with it.
Yeah, I mean, the late Brody Lee, same thing. He came in and kind of lost right off the bat, within a month. They need to give some of these big guys some steam because, I mean, they look like, they're different. They stand out and they can go. Yeah. So there's no reason not to. Also, we are on Twitch now, twitch.tv/Wrestling Inc. If you send us messages from there, we'll try to get to those as well. And Locustberg123456 saying, "Hey guys, huge fan. My question is, was the ending of Raw Monday night pre-taped? I noticed that Orton wasn't bleeding from his cheek when he got hit with the fireball. Yes, it was pre-taped."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think most of the recent stuff we've seen with Orton and either Alexa or The Fiend, they have been taking advantage of having a closed set, and they have pre-taped to make sure they get all the stunts and the timing of everything correct. But look good.
Yeah, and a big thanks to Rocky. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Good.
Real quick. Rocky Baya, who supports us on YouTube a lot, supporting us on Twitch. Thank you, Rocky.
Absolutely. Twitch. I mean, you're not Raj McMahon. You're letting us do Twitch here. This is it's fantastic.
So yeah, we gotta play some Punch Out and Pro Wrestling on there soon. And that's what it's there for, right?
Stella Justin Lopez, $4.99. I like Chucky T, but he got way too much offense in this match.
I agree.
I thought so too.
Yeah, but I guess and I'll kind of get into the whole too much offense later. But I looked at it as okay. Like again, I knew he wasn't winning, so at least Miro gives him a couple minutes of looking strong. Combo breaker, $1.99. Working OT and listening to you guys. Thank you. Well, good luck with your overtime. More Justin Lopez, another $1.99 accolade is called Game Over in AEW. Thank you very much for that. And I think that's all we got on the super chats at the moment. So thank you guys. So we keep on rolling. Backstage, Dasha is with Private Party and Matt Hardy, and Hardy just playing up the greedy Matt Hardy gimmick. He has to speak first and answer. He answers like one sentence. Then he lets them talk. They start getting into the whole 30%. We start getting into fine print of the contract they signed last week. They call Hardy a money-grabbing carny, which that's funny in itself. So they get into it, and finally, basically, Hardy just ends the interview, and Hardy says, "You stick with me, you'll be fine." He said, "You're going to be millionaires." He says, "When I say I say jump, you say how high." So, I mean. Look, Matt's been known. He's the three faces of Hardy, and I find it fun. They're just kind of letting him run with whichever one he kind of feels, and they're finding creative application for each of them.
I think this is probably the best stuff he's done since he's joined AEW. I think he had started this character in ROH, and I think he's finally getting to do it on a big stage, and he's great at it. The broken stuff, even with the no fans. It wasn't working with the no fans, but I still felt like it kind of run its course. And this just kind of reinvents him. He's entertaining, and I think he's been great so far. So I like it.
And it's also a great vehicle for Private Party, who, as good as they are in the ring and, they're kind of up and coming, they really didn't have anything to sink their teeth into creatively. So the fact that they're paired with Matt Hardy in this angle, I think, helps them as well.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, to be a tag team, to be a young tag team and have one half of one of the greatest tag teams ever in pro wrestling there, playing the big money Matt character as your agent. There's so many ways they can go and how long they can draw this out. So good creative here. Up next, we get the Inner Circle in the ring. Now, the whole gimmick here is they are all going to reveal their New Year's resolutions. Jake Hager immediately starts and says championships. That's his big goal. MJF wants to strengthen his bonds with the other members and also get rid of fat people. Let's not forget about that. Ortiz wants to improve a family recipe. Jericho says that he and MJF will win the AEW tag team championships. That then causes Santana to jump in, and he says, "Look, me and Ortiz, we were handpicked by you, Jericho, to be the tag team of the Inner Circle." Guevara jumps in, and kind of Sammy jumps in and says, "Yeah, I agree. Jericho, you're a tag team slut." I have a feeling Pro Wrestling Tees will have a new T-shirt tomorrow morning, with tag team slut. And basically, it ultimately just comes down to a lot of bickering and bantering amongst the family. So next week, we are going to have a triple threat tag team match between Sammy Hagar, tag team, Santana Ortiz, I do it too, and then Jericho and MJF, and whoever wins gets to be the official tag team of the Inner Circle. Guys, it's so stupid, but it works. It doesn't. It plays into the fact that these guys don't all get along. They're constantly looking over their shoulder with insecurity. They're willing to have a match. They'll have the match, and then they'll act like best buds right after. I think this is great stuff.
Yeah, I love how self-destructive the Inner Circle is, because this is probably the worst idea if you want harmony, for them to split off into a civil war essentially. But I love week after week. I'm more interested in where this goes.
Yeah, I think most weeks the inner segment's usually my favorite thing on the show. Tonight, I didn't think it was one of their best ones. Hager doing the championships over and over, and I just thought the back and forth just felt very scripted. It felt like a WWE promo in a lot of ways, where it's like, you're lying now. It didn't feel organic, and as organic as a lot of their segments do. But still, I thought it was still pretty damn entertaining. I still thought MJF and Jericho were great, and you saw MJF finishing off the promo for Jericho, kind of taking that leadership position, kind of subtly doing it. You're not seeing Jericho and MJF getting each other's face over it, but it was just subtle. So, there was stuff in there I liked. I liked Jericho and MJF, but the other guys I thought just came across a little scripted. Well,
to counter you, Raj, about it being like a WWE promo, I felt, and I think Jericho's even said this, WWE tries too hard with the comedy, or they take it a step too far rather than just letting the joke breathe. Jericho with so you're Sammy Hagar, and rather than actually explaining the joke, he just oh, okay, you just don't, I don't know, I think, even still, when you got 5, 6 guys in there with a microphone, and you do need to get to the end business of setting up a match, you do have to at least have a little bit of scripting ahead of time, but I still thought that it felt far more organic than most of WWE's attempts for comedy with 5 or 6 guys with microphones.
Yeah, and to your point, I thought that line was great too, and I liked how they didn't know who Sammy Hagar was. Just kind of shows how old we are. It was more the stuff that the lines that the guys that weren't named Jericho and MJF were saying. I thought Jericho and MJF came across great.
Yeah, and it's fun because there's so many avenues to think about what's the big payoff. They could run with this for the better part of this year, and there's so many options that they could go for the payoff. Whether it's Jericho getting kicked out and baby facing it, or whatever. There's so many things that we could analyze.
And one more, the last thing with this segment for me is I just felt like Wardlow and Hager, they just faced each other last week, right? They felt like it should have been mentioned. There should have been, something mentioned of it.
Well, they did say it's kind of like their justification for why they're going to fight each other. Jericho referenced it. Look, last week Wardlow and Hager, you guys had to get some blow off some steam, and so they at least kind of acknowledge that that's the thing.
But I missed that.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying, and Wardlow's the one who did not speak at all.
Right.
So he doesn't have a New Year's resolution. We got I don't know what currency that is, but it's 5 something. So thank you, FH. Solid show overall. Only negative is in-ring segments like the Inner Circle. One loss. It sparks without full crowds. The jokes land, but still takes away. Okay. So yeah, there's no crowd to react to it, but
yeah,
I still think the Inner Circle stuff is usually some of the best stuff on the show, and I still thought so tonight.
Yeah, I would agree.
After this, I thought the show kind of went downhill for a while.
I would start to agree with that, and let's jump into that. So we do get a backstage with Alex Marvez and the Dark Order, kind of basically saying, obviously, the loss of the wonderful Brody Lee. What is next? And Evil Uno says everything's going to be in Brody Lee's name. Next week, Hangman Page, he's going to team the Dark Order. Hopefully, Page decides he wants to be with them. and then it just kind of turned into a bunch of hilarity. Basically, this now looks like the Dark Order that Matt Morgan's always touting and raving that needs an Oscar on Being the Elite web series. That comedy Dark Order is kind of seems like what they're leaning more into now, as they're essentially baby faces. I feel weird saying they're baby faces now because of a tragic death, but that seems kind of the reality of it.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, and I do think they need someone strong as their leader. They have to be baby faces, and I think they need to be kind of booked a little stronger than they have been. Like they would never win on Dynamite before, and so maybe this is a good role for Hangman Page right now to lead that group, because they need a name to kind of be on top and then raise some of the other guys.
Yeah, and given the trajectory of this group as they're kind of on their ascent and becoming baby faces, I thought it's pretty much a matter of time before Hangman Adam Page joins the Dark Order. But the way this segment was scripted tonight, where they're just so sure that he's going to join, where Hangman Adam Page says, "Okay, I guess I'll team with you," and they're just like, "Yes, he's going to join." That kind of makes me think that maybe that's not the direction that they go in.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope it is, because I think it'll be great for Hangman Adam Page to join the Dark Order, given that he's like the odd man out of the Elite right now with whatever they're doing.
Right.
For
yeah,
sure.
He's kind of not doing anything else right now, so it would be good for him. We got another Twitch comment. Skibo saying, has there been any word on a AEW OTT streaming or any more international TV deals? Fight TV has been playing up for Fight TV with the app not working at times and them going into commercials just recently when it shouldn't have in Australia. Not really, no. I haven't heard of anything new on that front.
No, I'd imagine probably things got, if there were plans, things have probably got delayed because of the pandemic in the last 10 months. But that's a natural route. You got to go. OTT is, everybody's got to have a streaming platform and an on-demand platform these days.
Yeah, no, OTT, I mean, you can stream it on the TNT app in the States, but, they wouldn't do any other deals in the U.S. because that would conflict with their TNT deal.
We got $10 Canadian from Jody Shauna Jenkins. One thing I cannot get over is the difference in the product between AEW and WWE. There's more storytelling and description in one AEW match than there is an entire Raw. Such a glaring difference. I think it's on a case by case basis. Honestly, I mean, just to play devil's advocate to WWE, I think there's times that AEW, and we kind of touch on them, there's things that happen, and there's actually something that'll come up here that we'll talk about. There's things that happen that are just so with no explanation. And granted, WWE sometimes over-explains or has redundancy, and we see it too many times to try to hammer it home. But I also think, AEW sometimes just short changes and it assumes you saw the segment on AEW, on Being the Elite, or assumes that you remember what happened 2 months ago when this person did show up and now they've been away because of whatever reason. So I don't really think one is overly better than the other. I don't know about you guys, but
yeah, no, I mean, I think when WWE, when they do a storyline like with Roman Reigns or when Sasha and Bayley, I thought those were really strong. And whereas AEW, sometimes they throw too much stuff in one match where you're like, who's feuding with who? Why are they mad at each other? Or aren't they on the same team? Like it just becomes a cluster. Whereas just simple storytelling and just logical, going step to step to step sometimes is avoided at times. And, I look at AEW, what they did with MJF and Cody. I thought that was brilliant, the way they did that storyline and the steps to get to that final match. And, you were really into it. And I feel like they haven't been doing that as much lately.
I think AEW is better with subtlety, and when it comes to like the long-term story, if they're going from A to B to C to D. And you can even look at last week as an example. When the Bullet Club reunited, it wasn't as simple as this is a Bullet Club reunion. You saw the facials of Nick Jackson and Matt Jackson where they're just kind of saying, I don't know about this. And that played into this week. Now, to Justin's point, that was a little discombobulated in that now we're asking, okay, so is there a Bullet Club reunion? Is there not? But I trust AEW to pay that off. I think they reward viewers more than WWE does for paying attention to the little subtle things, because I think this is going to pay off down the road. But yeah, AEW can get a little bit up into itself when it comes to storytelling, but I do think they're more consistent in telling stories. I think WWE does a great job with their main event angles, and when they want to tell a story, they do a great job with that. But AEW across the board, I think, does a good job telling stories with all their, from the top to the bottom of the card.
We got a Robert Martinez $4.99 super chat. He says, "What AEW superstars do you see going to WWE when their contract is over?" We always get the reverse of that question. I've never got that one.
AEW superstar sounds weird.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
That's what they call them.
I mean, for Raj, or both of you, because we all, I guess, know different things or hear different things. I mean, my understanding from at least a lot of the mainstay AEW stars at least the ones from the ground up, were brought in and given basically 3-year deals, even to the point where if the company was done after 2 years, they're promised to get that 3rd year paid no matter what. Now, obviously, they've been over a year in now on TV, and it doesn't look like they're going away. Props to them. So, I don't even know of anybody of any real stature that has a contract coming up with them that wouldn't, and if they do, that they wouldn't be just re-signed anyways.
We're still in that honeymoon phase of AEW where, everyone's getting along and working together, and it's great. And, but the drama is going to come. It's inevitable with any company, and when you have a bunch of talent, and there's going to be guys that aren't feeling like they're getting enough TV time, or so-and-so is getting more TV time and they're not as over, and things like that. We're not seeing that yet, but that'll happen down the road. And like you're saying, in 3 years, when contracts are up, we'll have to see who's being used and who's not. And the guys not being used, I'm sure, are going to be more than willing to seek other offers. Yeah,
and there's no... the one instance that we have seen of disgruntlement was a scripted version of it when Sean Spears went on, did that promo about not getting used, about...
Right.
You know what I mean? But we haven't seen him since, so he might be a candidate. But I don't see him going back to WWE because that's how he left WWE, saying he wasn't being used.
I think that was one of those. That's one of those storylines that I'm with you, Alfred, where I say a lot of times, like, I trust that they're going to pay it off, and I'm going to pay it off. And when I look back at this last year, there's so many things that have happened where it's like they haven't paid it off by now. They're probably not paying it off, or they do stuff on Dark, or they do it on BTE, and it's like, this is your main show. This is what's keeping you afloat. This is your money program. You got to make the stories make sense to the viewers of this show, because this is what's keeping you in business.
Yeah, I thought about Spears tonight as I watched Tully out there with FTR. I was like, man, they just really kind of abandoned him there. But I think AEW probably has this in mind. You can't make everybody happy, and you can't make everybody a millionaire. So, like Raj said, inevitably there will be people that will have a grievance to go do a shoot interview and complain about why they didn't get pushed higher up on the card. But that said, I do think that AEW is pretty aware of, okay, what is it to make a talent happy these days? And okay, maybe we won't give them as much money as they think they're worth, or maybe we won't be able to book them with as many wins as they feel they should have, but we'll let them have their name, and we'll let them still do some third-party stuff, or we'll let them, it seems like AEW's not, it doesn't seem like AEW and Tony Khan are hell-bent on owning somebody's name. They're letting them still be a brand, and so maybe that'll be enough as people look, or is the grass green on the other side with WWE, and they hear about all the terrible things in the WWE world, they'll say, okay, this is not so bad over here. Even if I'm on Dark every now and again. So
also, I think the move from AEW to WWE is going to be a lot tougher for the wrestler than WWE to AEW, because WWE to AEW, there's maybe less politics, but it's more of like a celebration that you got out of prison or whatnot. And we have seen quite a few instances of WWE guys or former WWE guys becoming champions in AEW. I don't think that's going to be the same thing. I think going to WWE, you're going to be looked at as, an AEW guy is here in Stamford, and they might not be treated as well as somebody leaving AEW or WWE to go to AEW.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're right about that. It'll be a case of if you're a homegrown AEW star, meaning you've never been seen with any regularity, maybe you're an extra on WWE TV. But like if you're a Britt Baker or if you're a Wardlow, if you ever go from AEW to WWE, there's that worry of they're going to play that whole line of, well, it doesn't matter what you accomplished before here, you have to earn it, in our world. So, One more super chat and we'll keep it going. Sean Wiley, $5. AEW I like a lot, but too shade of gray characters. They give an Impact too much respect. Miro needs a new gimmick. He could be a hell of a face right now. So a lot of recap in there. All right, moving along. One more here. Jody Shauna Jenkins, $5 Canadian. Hey Justin, who should command more on a cameo, Raj or Josh Eisenberg? Oh, Raj, absolutely.
Can't believe you would even ask that, Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to get Eisenberg going with cameos. That's just bringing up bad habits from college. All right, here we go. We get the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega. Now, to set this up, they advertised the Elite is going to be in a 6-man tag match. That's all they said to us. And then we see Kenny Omega backstage, he and Don Callis with the Young Bucks. And they basically say, Bucks, look, we're going to go out there and let us have our own entrance. You guys have your own great entrance and this whole thing. So Omega does his entrance, which is really growing on me. He comes out, does the entrance, comes out, and then Callis gets on the mic, and he introduces who the tag partners are going to be for Omega. And here comes Gallows and Anderson, the Good Brothers. So they come, they kind of give the outsiders Nash and Hall side entrance, no official entrance type of thing. And they get in there, and we see the Bucks, who are obviously sidewiped by this, and they then go up against the Varsity Blondes and Danny Limelight. And so this match, just my opinion real quick, this match way too long. This match goes in, they end up going into picture-in-picture, and Danny Limelight and the Varsity Blondes are good talent, good young talents. I'm not dissing them, but in the context of booking, they didn't get an entrance. They didn't even get their picture on the graphic or mentioned. They were just, they're the enhancement talent. Mm-hmm. And this match goes 2 segments. Kenny and the brothers working way too hard to win this match. There's false finishes, all this stuff. Eventually, they get the win. So that happens, and then after the match, we get the Bucks are out there. The Bucks are pissed off. Well, here come the Lucha Brothers. The Lucha Brothers end up in stereo super kicking the Bucks. But then here comes who else comes out?
Moxley.
Moxley comes out. Thank you. This was just such a shit show. It ended up basically being like every tag team AEW has, and it was like whose side is who everybody on. But it just came off as disorganized. That's my opinion. Raj, I'll go to you here.
I agree 100%. So I thought up until after Omega and the Good Brothers entrance and them coming in and swerving the Bucks, I thought that was great. I feel like it's a little soon to be swerving the Bucks, but I know why they had to do it. Nick Jackson hurt his leg the night before. This was all taped last week, so he had hurt his leg the night before, so he couldn't wrestle on the show. So it was a cute little way to change it up and get the Good Brothers on. This is the Good Brothers' first appearance on. They look like killers out there. Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman, who I think has a ton of potential. Danny Limelight. They have been treated as enhancement talent. Kenny Omega is supposed to be your best wrestler in the world. And to have it going 15 minutes to beat enhancement talent, not every match has to go 15 minutes, and not every match has to be, a great 4-star match where you get a bunch of moves in and a bunch of, fall finishes. This is one of those matches where I felt like this would have been less is more. 5 minutes. They just destroy the guys. And don't have so many people running in at the end. And I had to keep reminding myself, I'm like, why are the Lucha Brothers in? Oh, yeah, last week, after Omega beat Phoenix. And the announcers aren't really saying any of that. And, explaining why so-and-so is coming out there. It's like, oh, it's Moxley. Oh, it's Pentagon.
I question if they fully know.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it just turned into a mess. So, I just found myself not caring by the end.
I was actually out on this at the beginning, before this match even started, because I thought it was a ridiculous follow-up to what was really one of the biggest angles that we've seen, that we're going to see in 2021. Bullet Club reunion. This is probably what a lot of people maybe are tuning into to see the follow-up. And this match was advertised as the Elite in action. We were not explicitly told it was going to be Kenny and the Young Bucks. So it's one thing if the Young Bucks were lied to and they were advertised and Kenny swerved them. But when they went with the Good Brothers, the announcers made such a big deal. They said, well, I thought the Young Bucks were their best friends. And it was so high school for 6 grown men to get into the politics of who's in the Elite, who is Kenny's best friend. I thought it made them look minor league, kind of. And from that point, this match just really, it did nothing to me. And to your guys' point, at the end, when they did all the brawling afterwards, I was trying to keep up with who's feuding with whom. And I just thought that this was a very bad follow-up from the beginning, because I thought that it took them from looking like a main event type stable to really looking petty, in that now we're talking about who gets to be in the elite and who's supposed to be Kenny Omega's best friend. I don't like that storytelling at all.
I agree. Yeah, I thought it was that was a hot angle. I mean, last week's show I thought was great. And tonight's show I thought was one of their more average shows that they've done. And to your point, that was a hot ending last week, and this was the follow up. I just thought that was a piss poor follow up.
And the other thing that gets me is, I mean, this was, I don't want to say it's buried on the show, but like, you know, your two most important segments are your opening segment and your ending segment, and so this was like somewhere in the start of the second hour, you know, which is important. You start second hour, but like I feel like, you know, AEW's doing something, or it appears they're doing something that like is pretty novelty in 2021 in America, or 2020 and 2021, which is another company, an Impact, that they're doing this some kind of a cross promotion. We're stealing the belt, or we're doing an invasion. We don't even know. We haven't seen all the cards. I feel like they're just shortchanging themselves. Like I feel like there's a chance here to like be shouting on the wrestling media mountain of like, we're at war with Impact, and then, you know, there's all these rumors about what, you know, New Japan might do potentially. I feel like that they're crossing over into different yards, something that's been so taboo for the last 20 years since Vince balled up WCW and ECW, and they never even acknowledged Impact until just recently via archives. I feel like this is a big chance to be touting something, and they're just kind of like, you know, they're just kind of burying it. They're burying the lead here.
But what's the point of? I don't think they should be touting Impact. I mean, they have nothing to gain from. I mean, and we see what you see what Impact did last night. They did 160,000 viewers, a .05, you know, in the 18 to 49 demo. I mean, that is, you're talking multiples and multiples greater audience that AEW has. So they got nothing to gain from that, and I don't know. And then, you know, that's one of the examples of them, you know, not paying something off. They did that angle, and what has it been? Just that you know, the Good Brothers show up a month later, haven't really explained what they're there for. Who knows if they'll be on after next week? You know, it seemed like more to promote, you know, even though they didn't mention Hard to Kill, but it seemed like it was done for that purpose. I felt like it was an opportunity missed here.
Well, and it goes back to the very start of my question when they first did the whole Callis Omega winning the title, was like, what does AEW gain out of this? This is everything for Impact to gain.
Right.
Yeah, everybody.
They haven't gained any, at least so far. I mean, their numbers are way back down to just back to where they were.
Yeah, the 160,000 people that watch Impact, I guarantee all 160,000 of them are already watching AEW.
Right. At least 140,000.
Right.
So is it worth getting that 20,000 extra?
We'll see. All right. Up next, it's the waiting room. The first time it's going to be on Dynamite, the waiting room with Britt Baker and Reba. This is a bit of a shit show, but it's kind of fun in my opinion. Basically, Britt, you know, again, I referenced before, you know, Britt's always been a babyface when she was here in Pittsburgh training with us and coming up. Always the girl next door. So to see her getting to be like her like sassy personality and do this is fun. She comes into this, and you know, she just jabs at Cody and his neck tattoo, jabs at, we have the sparklers for the pyro, and all kinds of you know, I guarantee that you know, somebody has, you know, I don't have an action figure yet, just all kinds of jabs, all this stuff. Then she ends up surprising Cody. Here comes Jade Cargill. Jade, again, talking smack on Cody, just puts her hand in his face, talking trash on Brandy, who, of course, is pregnant. They're saying, oh, she's gone for 9 months, thank God. Jade reminding that her and Shaq are a alliance. So, anyways, all hell breaks out and loose of Jade Cargill when all of a sudden Red Velvet shows up. So, big pull apart and all this nonsense. And then we just randomly then see, there was a weird non-transition. We see action that happened previously of Britt attacking Thunder Rosa and putting Thunder Rosa somewhere around the building in a submission move, and they announce Thunder Rosa versus Britt at their beach brawl coming up. And then, Britt storms off. Again, a lot of funny stuff. Britt's taking selfies and video while everybody's in the pool park. So funny stuff, but it got a little chaotic to keep track of. You kind of need to keep score on paper. But overall, though, I was, if nothing else, entertained by this. Alfred, are you in with Dr. Britt Baker's humor in the waiting room?
I like the waiting room on AEW Dark. I mean, I've seen a couple episodes of it, and it's fun, but I just felt like it was out of place on the show. It felt like a WWE segment on an AEW show. And I think, WWE's kind of mastered the whole talk show segment. You could argue they do it too much, but AEW clearly has not. And there are just quite a few things that seem that they're out of place, even down to Britt Baker getting the sparkles. And it looked like she was afraid she was going to burn herself because nobody would take it from her. I thought there were a couple of things that just kind of went awry, especially as Cody came into the segment. He couldn't keep a straight face. I didn't think this was very good, just especially when you consider the talents of Big Breaker and how highly I think of this segment on AEW Dark. I don't think this was its best foot forward.
I thought it sucked, and I liked the first minute or two. I thought Britt was doing a good job, and then it just turned into a freaking mess. And I mean, so many things. So first of all, Red Velvet. I think we've seen her with Brandy once on Dynamite. Right? They've never really explained.
Yeah, a couple times.
Brandy was her manager for 1 week on Dynamite. I know they've done stuff on Dark, but
and you're right. And thank God, this is the only time I think that the commentary really interjected. I guess it was edited commentary, where when she showed up, because I took a minute. I was like, which one is that? And then they went, oh, that's Red Velvet. And they had to remind you who that is. That's coming in for the save.
Yeah, and then you had Jade Cargill. Have they explained what her relationship is with Shaq on TV? It's just randomly are you his girlfriend? Are you his manager? What is are you just friends? What is the relationship here? Why are you interjecting Shaq into this randomly? Shaq hasn't said the 1 week when he was on, he didn't say anything like he wanted to get in the ring or he wanted Cody. And then, that weird edit to last week's episode. And then, they're making fun of Thunder Rosa's looks. I just feel like it's just very outdated for a women's feud now. I just thought this whole thing sucked. And then, this ended in a brawl, right? I'm having a hard time.
Yeah. Cargill and Red Velvet.
Yeah, pull apart, and then Britt and Reba just storm off and leave.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I was entertained, but I think the points you guys make are valid. Especially the Jade and Shaq stuff. Yeah, right. Jade Jade just dropped Shaq's name weeks ago when she made her debut, and then Shaq, when he had that sit down with Brandy, the whole thing was which caused Brandy to throw the water in the face of Shaq, was Jade's gonna teach you something in the ring and show you up. And I always found that funny, is that happened, and then within the next 7 days, Brandy and Cody went public about saying that she's pregnant. And I was like, this is, I guess, just some bad timing that we're leading towards what we think is a Brandy versus Jade or a Brandy Cody versus Jade Shaq match, and then all of a sudden, poof, you're pregnant. I mean, good for you guys being pregnant in real life, but that's such an obstacle now that you've just halted the story. So I don't know.
And that they can't control. I'm assuming that they weren't doing the storyline while she was pregnant. I'm assuming they found out after that Shaq segment. But between this segment and the last one with Omega and all those guys and the Bucks, this is 30 people that were on between these two segments. Cody was in there somewhere. Talk about Go Big Show. It was 30 people in 2 segments.
Not a lot of social distancing there.
Yeah. And people were wondering about the Royal Rumble. How are they going to get it with all those guys in the ring at the same time? It's
They also had the audience, and the audience was very closely set together. They did this bit with Britt Baker where she faked like she was going to get everybody a car, and they all looked down, but there were a lot of people in the audience.
Right, yeah. So I thought it was a cluster, but thankfully the show got back on the rails after this.
A socially distant Royal Rumble. Let's do 30 participants with 3 rings.
Hey, World War III.
They just repeat what they did last year with Brock, where he just keeps throwing everyone out.
Right. Something like that.
There can never be more than 3 people in the ring at a time. Ever. All right, moving on. Jurassic Express, which is this time it's going to be Marcus Stunt and Jungle Boy up against FTR. And, Jungle Boy, somebody who really seemed like at the the first half of this year, then obviously even dating back into 2019 or first half of 2020, dating back into 2019, so much momentum as just the little engine that could babyface really has just died down in the last 4 or 5 months. But he's in this tag match up against FTR. Some babyface hope and comeback spots, but at the end of the day, FTR gets the victory via pinfall. Was what was. I don't really have much more to say other than just my noting of. I was like, oh, Jungle Boy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the match was good. It makes all the sense for FTR to get the win, to build momentum back up for them. I agree with you with Jungle Boy. He did lose a lot of steam ever since he did that 10-minute match with Jericho. It seemed like he was heading on to bigger stuff. I think they were. It seemed like they were waiting for crowds to return to kind of pull the trigger on that, and now he's kind of stalled a lot. But
I think that's by design. I think it's by design that we haven't seen as much of Jungle Boy, because I do think they're holding off. They clearly are still into him, because Tony Khan just bought the rights to that A's theme music that he used again tonight. I don't know what that song's called, but it's whatever. I'm not going to sing it, but he gets the song. So they're clearly investing in this character. And I think that, when crowds come back, he'll be one of the people who kind of makes an ascent.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. Up next is our kind of weekly 9:30 Eastern Time women's match that they give us. It's the NWA, and again, they put more. It seems like they put more investment in their NWA Women's Championship business partnership than they do their own. But that's a whole other podcast. Serena D, the champion, up against Taya Conti with Anna Jay and Dark Order in her corner. This might, again, I think this one went 2 segments. It was a decent amount of time. A good match. I mean, but both these ladies, Tay Conti especially, if you saw her in NXT, not that she was bad there, but she's made, maybe it's just the TV time, but she's made a lot of strides here. Looks good. Ultimately, though, Serena Deeb, the veteran Deeb, getting the pinfall victory here. Good match. I just harp on. It's like AEW's biggest critique is about their women, and the booking of it and the lack of depth. And then they have the NWA situation come in, whatever that situation is, and they give more highlight to them, I feel like, than their own women.
Which is weird, because these are 2 AEW contracted women. like they both are under contract to AEW. Thunder Rosa is under contract to the NWA, but both of them are AEW. I thought Tay Conti looked amazing. I thought she has just improved just leaps and bounds over the past year. I thought this match was really good. Serena Deeb, I think, is underrated in a lot of ways. And I liked it. I thought this was a strong match and a good showing. I agree the NWA stuff is weird. It kind of makes their own women's division look like it's not getting enough focus. But this was a good match.
Yeah, I thought this was a big test, obviously, for Tay Conti. She's somebody that I think that they're really into. If you saw the Road 2, they did this really good piece on her, and they really focused on her in terms of somebody who's up and coming. And I actually, midway through this match, because I was certain that Serena Deeb was going to retain, but I was hoping that Tay Conti was going to win. I mean, she just looked that good, and I was just thinking, maybe this is her night. Maybe this is the night they just put the title on her. But they really need to do something with her. And I really liked how she looked in it.
And they've got time to build her. I mean, she is just really coming into her own. So you don't want to push it too fast, but I think her and Anna Jay, those are some stars in the making right there.
What do we think the end game is here with the NWA women's crossover? I mean, the NWA is not putting out a weekly video product, correct? I mean, like what's the idea here? What is Tony Khan getting out of this? Again, I know what Billy Corgan's getting out. He's getting his NWA brand that he owns and his talent that he's paying some exposure. But what is Tony Khan getting out of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't see anything.
I think this is just Tony Khan's philosophy at play. Maybe because we're still new to what he believes and how he likes to book wrestling. But judging by Impact, judging by NWA, maybe New Japan gets involved. I think he just has a philosophy that if we're going to be the balance of power, so to speak, is going to shift, we're going to have to do it in teams. We're going to have to kumbaya and join up with other promotions that, yeah, maybe they're not going to get anything out of it, but maybe he feels that they're going to be stronger in numbers.
Well, I mean, and if there's any division, your men's singles, your men's tag, your women's single. I mean, if there's any division you want to like try to maybe cherry pick and like get some help with, I get it is your women's division because I mean, Chris Statlander, she gets hurt, and the whole Brandy Rhodes creepy thing that kind of fell apart. So like they lost Awesome Kong. So like really Britt and Nyla Rose are the two things that I think that have worked. Sheeta's our champion, but I'm sorry, Sheeta just doesn't seem like she's connecting, at least for my my barometer. So I guess maybe this is Tony saying, hey, look, I need some more women, so I'm not going to get WWE's talent, and I'm this is a way to get some more on the roster, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but again, these are two AEW contracted women. So, sorry. Go ahead.
Real quick, $5 Sean Wiley. Cody looked like a dorky Mr. Rogers in the waiting room with Dr. Britt Baker. Jay Cargill could be a bodyguard for Dr. Britt Baker, like Gonzalez for Kai. Yeah, I mean, Jay Cargill, like I think she was looking down at Cody.
Yeah.
I mean, she is impressive.
I don't know what kind of heels she was wearing, maybe, but
even though I thought that segment was a mess, she looks impressive. Like she could be something.
It's hard to take her out. She's one of those talents, and you need one of these or multiple people like this in wrestling to where it doesn't matter if you watch wrestling or not. If you see her, you're just like, what is going on over here?
All right. JJ Hallmark's asking about Serena signing. And he said, I thought Serena was with NWA, and I thought Rosa was signing with AEW. She's still under there were those rumors, but she was still under contract with AEW. Serena Deeb signed with AEW last September. They announced it. And yeah, if you go to Wrestling Inc., do a search on AEW signs, search for Serena Deeb, you'll find the article.
Yeah, so weird times in the moving parts here. All right, so we go to the main event of AEW Dynamite. It is the AEW TNT Championship with champion Darby Allin up against Brian Cage. Cage has Starks and Hook at ringside. Taz is on commentary. Taz makes a point to explain that Hobbs is not there because Tony Khan said that Brian could only have two people at ringside, which that kind of doesn't really make sense. Why would you have it? Why would you let anybody have at ringside? But whatever. Just to put that out there. So we get this match. Brian Cage, freak of an athlete in terms of his strength. I mean, we get some crazy offense. One of the notable ones is Cage gorilla presses Allen and launches him out the ring an easy 6, 7, 8 feet into the timekeeper's table that just explodes. From that point on, Allen is bleeding. We get a pretty hard bump that Cage takes onto the steel steps. Allen takes off his belt. He basically hog ties Cage at one point to neutralize him there. As he's doing that, Starks gets up. Looks like Starks will get involved. Lights come out. Lights come back on. Sting standing there, takes a bat, hits Starks. And then ultimately it leads to Darby Allin hitting a coffin drop he hit the coffin drop earlier. Darby Allin ends up hitting the crucifix bomb off the ropes on the Cage. 1, 2, 3. So Darby retains. Sting and Darby stand tall. The FTR champion loses again on a major match. We do get the Sting appearance we thought we would. We don't get any more. Is Sting Darby's father? Like, we don't get any more of what the hell is going on here, but I don't know.
So the match I thought was great. It was like a pay-per-view match, I thought. Like it felt, I mean, the stuff they did was crazy. We spoke to this earlier. Brian Cage, I think there's a ton of potential in him. They don't have many guys like him. I'd like to not see him lose so much. I think he's won the last couple singles matches, but I feel like some of these, you got to pick some of these guys and just protect them for a while and not have them lose, especially with your giants and your larger than life guys. Darby looked good, and I thought the match itself was great. Sting, this is one of those things where you don't need Sting on every week. I think it's great that they signed Sting. I think it's a great signing, but he's doesn't need to be doing the same thing every week. Granted, he actually hit Ricky Starks this week. That was a little different, but it feels a little redundant. Just keep him, every few weeks, and he shows up, and it means more.
Yeah, and I think they've been doing it long enough to where if it is revealed that Sting and Darby are just working together, that would be kind of a disappointment. That, like, you're doing this all this time and the payoff is that Sting and Darby are in cahoots. Isn't that implied the whole time? So unless they have something wild in terms of a swerve or or some grand idea. It is time to kind of move forward with this. I'm glad that they did show Sting. Sting did get to use his bat, so that is some progress. But this match to me saved the show. I was ready to crown this as a bad AEW show. I don't think we get too many bad Dynamites, but leading up to this segment, I was like, wow, this is not a good show. But this match I think was so good that I'm willing to say it was an okay show.
Yeah, it was an okay show, and to what you guys said, this has been getting really redundant with Sting, and I know this sounds really whiny and spoiled of us that like we're complaining about the same. We should be just happy to have Sting there, but this does kind of feel like this does, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe we'll be proven wrong, but it does feel like Tony Khan got this big, this big contract done with Sting, and merchandise is worth something. Obviously, the shirt I'm sure is selling great, but I almost feel like they don't really know where they're going. This does not feel like they have a big plan. This feels like they're kind of booking it week to week. That's how it comes off. Maybe they will surprise us and we'll get to February or March and there'll be this big aha moment, but it doesn't seem like that's where we're headed.
I think we're headed to Sting and Darby Allin versus Cage and Ricky Starks in a cinematic match. I mean, Tony Khan basically had already said that he asked Sting if he wanted to do cinematic matches, and highlight the word cinematic, not regular matches. And Sting said, yeah. So they're headed to a cinematic match. I don't know if there's going to be any swerves with the Sting and Darby stuff. I think it is what it is. They're just Sting just likes him and sees him in him. And that's probably the bulk of it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just what it feels like they're doing. And they're just kind of treading water until they get to that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens next week with AEW. But that was tonight's Dynamite, again, night 2 of the New Year's Smash. So real quick before we jump over to NXT, if you're rated on 1 to 10, guys, where do you put this one? I give it like a 7.5, honestly.
I was gonna say a solid 6.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say a 6.5, 7 for Dynamite. Again, this is I thought it was probably below average other Dynamite episodes, especially coming off of a hot show like last week. I think it made it more stark. So, but it did have some good matches, and it was really only about 45 minutes that I didn't care for. But maybe a 7. I'll go with 7.
I'll be interested to watch the viewership because you have that. You have, of course, all the political news going on. You have the NHL started tonight in their abbreviated season. I think the NBA had games on tonight, so no shortage of people, no shortage of options for people to look at the TV guide for. So we'll see how this comes out.
Well, last year, this sounds weird to say, but the last time the president was impeached, it was also on a Wednesday. And it cost AEW a lot. That was the only time AEW lost both the demo and overall viewers to NXT. So
the last time the president.
That's true. It was on a Wednesday.
It was on a Wednesday, was it?
It was.
That's
on a Wednesday.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, it was a Wednesday about 9 months ago. He was the last time we did this whole.
Yeah, it was 13 months ago. And,
good Lord.
AEW doing their lowest rating of that year, of 2019. It was December, and they were down 12% from the week before. And yeah, so a lot of times these news stories hurt AEW more than NXT. NXT was actually up from their prior week that week. So
yeah, I think just about every time the news stories hurt AEW more than WWE. Their audience tends to be a lot more subjective to news, real news.
Yeah.
Tony Khan's calling Congress. Can you guys push this shit to Friday, please?
Feels like nothing happens on a Thursday. Like Thursday nights are they're just dead. Yeah.
Oh boy. All right, Alfred, do you want to go to NXT here?
Yeah, let's get started with NXT. We start with Schatzy Blackheart versus Candace LaRae. Schatzy got a lot of offense. I thought she looked good in here. It looked like she rolled out a couple of new moves. There was some outside interference from Indy Hartwell while Schatzy was going to the top, which led to a spinning neck breaker from the top rope by Candace LaRae, and Candace LaRae wins. What did you think about this match, Justin?
Good match. I'm a big fan of both of these. I love Candace as a heel. Shotzi, I was a little unsure of Shotzi at first. I didn't get the whole tank thing, whatever. But it's all. I don't even know if I get it now, but I've at least accepted and grown with it. But I think both have good offensive skill sets. I enjoy watching this. I will say, as I'm watching again a rare singles match in AEW, I have a second screen watching NXT, and I was very much drawn to this. So yeah, I think this was I think this was as a good of a start as NXT could provide, and I also like that I'm going in NXT knowing Dusty Rhodes Classic is the shtick now, and I like that I got a singles women's match. That was a nice little surprise. So I was all for this.
Yeah, I agree with you with the Schatzy and the Tank. I was a little confused with that for a while. It reminded me of Kairi Sane with the pirate thing, where I'm just confused for a while, and then after a while it becomes kind of endearing. It's just kind of, you're just used to it, and then it's just kind of cool. So Schatzy, I feel like she's becoming like a breakout star.
Yeah, she won that award.
She did win that award.
The thing is with Schatzy is I had no clue who she was or what she was about, even though they had her on TV every week, and I didn't care to find out. But they aired like a 3-minute vignette on why she has a tank, who she is, what her background is. And since then, she's been one of my favorite acts in NXT. She might be my favorite wrestler, man or woman, in NXT.
Did they say why she howls?
I don't think they specifically said why she howls. She did it at the end. It's just her taunt. It's something she does.
Kind of like a woo, but...
They explained TCB, which I didn't know what that meant until they showed that vignette, and I really like the Shotzi Blackheart character. She's a very charismatic woman.
Maybe Ric Flair will start to howl at Lacey Evans.
Yeah.
Real talk here, though. Real talk. If Shotzi Evans goes to Raw or SmackDown, does Vince let her keep the tank?
Yeah, I think he does, and I think it gets more cartoonish. I think we're going to grow to hate that tank if we see it in WWE. He'll either get rid of it or he'll wrap his arms around it, and it'll be this big production that we just like.
Right. Well, I was going to say Vince usually he lets it on the first week, and then he sees it. He's like, "What the hell was that?" And he starts, getting those Vince fingers on it.
I can imagine he's not even watched her yet on NXT.
Oh, sure.
He only and he hasn't watched it. And Pritchard or somebody, or even Triple H goes, "Well, she comes out in a tank," and he goes, "A tank," and the ideas just start to bloom from there.
Oh yeah, you can get ready. Okay, so we get to Finn Balor comes out. He cuts his promo. He says Kyle was great, but he wasn't on my level. He's the one sipping through a straw now because of his jaw issues. And whoever wants to step up can step up. That brings out Pete Dunne. He says the only reason you're the poster boy for European wrestling is because I haven't taken it and I haven't taken that title from you. And so he said, you get in line. I'm not going to wait anymore. Then that leads to a brawl between Finn Balor and the Kings of NXT with Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. And then Undisputed Era hits the ring to make the stave. And then we get a really, really long stare down between Finn Balor and the Undisputed Era before the segment ends.
Kings of NXT sounds a lot like Kings of Wrestling, right? And then that would Impact, Kevin Nash and Jeff Jarrett and Scott Hall, they called themselves that for a while.
They were, they had the Elvis costumes.
Right, yeah.
That was also Cesaro and Chris Hero called themselves the King of Wrestling. They're one of the best tag teams in the world for a while.
I guess it's a pretty easy name to come up with, but I mean, props to Pete Dunne. He has really stepped his game up. He's really been working out. He looks like an athlete. Like he looks like somebody.
Yeah, I was fine with this. I was actually expecting, Cross to interrupt, Cross or Scarlett, and that didn't happen. We will get a little vignette later on, but I'm okay with this. Pete Dunne, kind of such an intense and good competitor. Again, was one who was a victim of the pandemic we didn't see for a while. Then he gets kind of thrown in randomly with Pat McAfee's group. Seems like that's done for the temporary time. So I'm okay with this. Finn and Pete, that's a fresh matchup. I like the whole grappling of you're Mr. European Wrestling only because I haven't decided to take it from you. I can get behind that, and I can get behind this being the middle point before a Cross Finn showdown. I think the next pay-per-view they have, the next takeover, at least for NXT, I think is on Valentine's Day. So if it's going to be Pete and Finn, let that happen. And then if there's an NXT takeover come Mania weekend, that certainly feels the most appropriate for Cross and Finn to reconvene. So I was okay with this. I'm a big Pete Dunne fan, so anything that involves him getting big-time matches, I'm all for.
Yeah, he's shredded right now. He's in the best shape of his life. And, with all due respect to Karrion Kross, I really think this is going to be the year of Pete Dunne. And one thing I love that they do in NXT is the world titles seem so important because there's always a line to get to the champion. Like, Pete Dunne was told to wait in line. Tonight we got a promo from Raquel Gonzalez calling out the champion. So I like how they protect their titles here. We go to Johnny Gargano backstage. He makes excuses saying he only lost because he was in skinny jeans. Austin Theory has a gift for him, and it's a picture of him drawn by Dexter Loomis, and it's Johnny Gargano crying. There's another picture of Austin Theory. It says idiot since he's crazy, so now Johnny's all pissed off. We get into Grizzled Young Vets versus Everrise. This was fine. You got Grizzled Young Vets are clearly something that WWE or NXT is heating up for a big run. I think they might be favorites to win this tournament, but they get a promo on the way to the ring. There was no heat for this match because it's two heels. So at one point, Martel makes this great comeback. I thought it was really good, but nobody did anything. And then they hit the ticket to mayhem on Martel for the win. So Grizzled Young Vets win over Everrise. Justin?
Well, I'm glad you said that, Alfred, because you're right. Neither are babyface teams, but they worked such a traditional tag match to a hot tag to Everrise. And again, I have my screens up, I'm watching, and I'm going, if Dusty was around with us, surely there would have been a critique to this. There would have been a, no, baby, we can't do it that way. It's something like that. Again, I guess for what it was, fine, but that was a very confusing match given what we've seen the path of these two teams be.
And they're both such aggressive heels. Like, it's not like one of them's a tweener. They're both very, very decided in the fact that they don't like these people, that they're the best and whatnot, and just not these two together. Raj, did you like this match?
Yeah. I'll have to watch it more close. I'm forgetting what was happening on AEW. I remember I was going back and forth, but I remember I was paying more attention to AEW during this match, but I got to go back and watch it.
So then we get the promo from Raquel Gonzalez, just showing her beating Rhea Ripley last week and just calling out Io Shirai.
This I thought was good. I think they're doing a great job with her. And Rhea Ripley, of course, is going to the main roster. Hopefully they do a better job this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mean she's not going to be part of Retribution?
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, no. You never know.
Sorry, Rhea.
Yeah, if she hears that and she gets put in Retribution, she's coming for you.
Yeah, we'll know why. We get the backstage promo. So this is the first of a couple of backstage promo revealing a team for the Dusty Rhodes Women's Classic, and it looks like Schatzy Blackheart will be teamed with Ember Moon. Then we go to Gargano and Dexter Loomis. This is a pretty good match. Gargano working over Dexter Loomis's lower back. I really liked it. Loomis makes his comeback. Austin Theory interferes the first time. He kind of gets scored up the second time. It's a really cool spot to where Austin Theory was being thrown in a fall-away slam at the same time that Dexter Loomis was being rolled up. So Dexter Loomis takes the pin and loses, and then Loomis goes after Theory and hits a silent submission on him. Good match, I thought. What did you think about Gargano versus Dexter Loomis, Justin?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This might have been my favorite of NXT, and again, much like most NXTs, I don't really have anything that turns me off. They don't. I use the analogy between the two. AEW is always swinging for the fences, a baseball analogy. They are swinging for the fences, so it's either going to be a home run or it's going to be a big whiff and a strikeout. And more times than not, AEW hits the ball pretty well. NXT does not do that. NXT stays very consistent. They stay in a lane, and they jump out of that lane when appropriate, when it's a takeover or when it's a big show. So I'm always pretty satisfied with what I get. But this was the best one. Dexter Loomis. Well, first off, I love Gargano as a heel. My first 3 years working in the independent wrestling business was in Ohio, was with Johnny Gargano, where he was our champion. He was our top guy. His family was part of the ownership of the company, and we were on DirecTV around the country. And so I've only ever seen Johnny on, in the ring as a babyface, but I also got to see a little bit of his character and like a little bit of his real life character, and be like, he kind of like what I said earlier about Britt. He could pull off a heel. He really could. It's just when you look at him, you're like, oh, he's babyface money, and the way he works in the ring, he's babyface money. So I love his chicken shit heel. And then Dexter Loomis, before people freak out, he's not the Undertaker. He's not 6'10". He doesn't really invoke all the supernatural powers, but the stalk he has, the frickin' stare he has, the chops he has, the way he just keeps moving, I get Undertaker-like vibes of just this babyface who you're like, I want to cheer for him, but he's a little creepy. I'm in it. It's all clicking to me. His moveset is a little bit more high-flying, or not high-flying, but he does a little bit more in his moveset than I would maybe think an Undertaker comparison character would do, but I kind of adapted to a modern day vampire movie where the vampire can move real quicker. I don't know. I'm okay with it, but I think it's all clicking. I'm a big fan of Dexter Loomis. I wouldn't have no problem with him being in the main event sooner rather than later.
Taker would do, the old school and the dives from, inside the ring to the out. I was surprised that Gargano got the win here. I was a little surprised by that. I to your point with Gargano as a heel, because he has been a heel before, kind of turned babyface. I feel like this is his best heel run yet. I think he's the most entertaining he's been. And there was a few years ago where it's like he's just this perfect babyface. You can never turn him heel, and he's been doing a really good job. I think he's one of the most entertaining things on the show. Dexter Loomis, at some point, I know his gimmicks is not to talk, but that's only going to take you so far once you get to the main roster. And with his size, he's going to be called up sooner than a lot of the other guys. So I don't know how you rectify that, but at some point he needs to get some reps on the mic, because you're going to sink or swim on that.
And it's uncharacteristic in this day and age of WWE, or you need to find him a Paul Bearer. You need to find him somebody that only the only person that can speak Dexter Loomis's language and translate for him.
Even Paul Bearer or Taker still talked,
Yeah, it makes me very nervous, the idea of Dexter Loomis finally speaking, because it's an opportunity for comedy, and more times than not, WWE chooses the comedy. And I just think that they might make him have a high-pitched voice or something that you don't expect. Like, if he's going to talk, he should just talk. Yeah, he should just talk. But I don't have 100% faith that he's just going to be able to talk. So if they don't want to let him talk, I'm fine with that, because I agree. I like his act. I like that he's like a real-life serial killer. It's like, there's nothing cartoonish about it. It's like, he's got this look of guy who literally would be somebody that you see on like a murder mystery or something like that.
Yeah, the name kind of takes it away, though. When if your name is Freddie Dahmer, it's a little too on the nose to where,
Dexter.
If Dexter Loomis starts chasing R-Truth in the 24/7 title, and the foil is he has bad vision, and he can't see the referee around him that's setting him up, that'll be the death of it all.
So we go backstage, we get a Kings of NXT promo. They're pretty much hinting that they're going to be out there again. You haven't seen the last of them. Then we go into this segment with Wade Barrett. He's with Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa. They're kind of doing like the HBO 24/7 bit with two guys just talking to each other. I like when they do stuff like this. Tommaso is saying he's never been in a fight pit. He's asking why the animosity. And so Tommaso makes it clear that he likes Timothy Thatcher as a wrestler. He thinks he's a grappler. He's a badass, but he takes liberties as a coach. And so there's a lot of talk of taking liberty. Okay, I liked this segment. I just didn't like Tommaso Ciampa took exception because Timothy Thatcher made this analogy, like, would a lion tell a zebra that he's coming to kill him? And then Ciampa goes, "What are you calling me a zebra for?" And it just got kind of cartoonish from there. So I didn't like the ha-ha that they did toward the end, but I really like the idea of this segment setting up this fight pit.
Well, Lion King roleplay aside, I did like, Wade being the moderator. I think Ciampa had a moment where he was like, "You're waiting to see fear in my eyes, but you can keep looking. It's not going to happen." Like, it was something to that effect. Yeah. This really did it for me, and I'm glad they actually bumped this match and didn't do it on New Year's Eve, probably for time constraints, I would assume. Both men are actually legitimately healthy, so I'm glad they kind of pushed this, and this is hopefully going to get its own kind of main event feature spot in itself. I like both these guys. I like this. The Thatch Can stuff was whatever, but I like what it stands for, and I like the intensity. I like the real shoot fight that they're trying to project here, and I'm all for this.
Yeah, I like that NXT has kind of been borrowing elements from like UFC and stuff like that, with just doing a different way to build a match with just the two guys talking, like they did with Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly, where they were the stuff they did with them. It's different. It's not your regular, you attack me, I attack you next week, and then we have our match. So, I liked it. The background music, I don't know.
Yeah. NXT, I love when they do a lot of stuff like this that make me feel like I'm a sports fan when I'm watching wrestling instead of something that I have to defend and something that's weird. They don't treat wrestling like it's this weird cartoon. They actually treat it like as if these two guys are really going to fight. And this match came off like a main event type match in the segment.
Alfred, what you just said there is a great thing. We've talked about this in the past, whether it's Matt or Glenn or whatever combination of us on here. We talk about does this hold up on the test of the non-wrestling fan? If your wife walks in the room,
right,
or if you have the neighbors over for dinner and drinks, if they walk in the room, are you embarrassed about what you have on the TV with wrestling? And you're right. This is a segment that if you have any of those parties, you're not embarrassed. It comes off as like something masculine, something box office.
Exactly.
So the cartoony stuff, we are going to get to Xia Li here in a second, right?
Don't go cartoony, Raj. Bite your tongue.
Go like that.
Bite your tongue, Raj.
I actually liked it. So
yeah, we're almost there. So we get a Undisputed Era backstage, pretty much predicting that they're going to win. And we have the team of Sammy Hagar in AEW. Well, this week we have the team of Scott Atlas in NXT. It's your team of Isaiah Swerve Scott and Jake Atlas versus the debuting MSK. So this is Dez and Wentz from Impact. If you're not familiar, they're actually a really good act. They're a good tag team, kind of a smaller size, high-flying type tag team. So this was pretty much a showcase of them. I was infuriated with this right up until the show almost ended because Swerve Scott and Jake Atlas are supposed to be in this feud. Now they're randomly tagging. There's no hint of dissension. Dez and Wentz are just running through them. Dez and Wentz, MSK wins the match. There's no post-match brawl, but toward the end of the show, right before the main event, you got like a brawl segment. So that, I guess, kind of saved it. But this feud really kind of is starting to fall off the rails a little bit. But MSK wins. What did you think about the debut of MSK, Justin?
I mean, they looked really good. There was a lot of hype, obviously, all day today and speculation that this would be them. It was them. I know there's a lot of disappointment I saw on social media, the fact their names were changed.
Yeah,
they're called
like Nash Carter and Wes Lee, and Wes space Lee.
Wes Lee is hard to take seriously,
right? So Wentz, who was Wentz, is now Nash Carter. Dez is now Wes Lee. I saw the name thing but give it 2-3 weeks, people just come to accept what the new names are. But yeah, I mean, I thought they look great. I mean, and really. I look at the bracket of the Dusty Rhodes Classic, and if you're looking at it on the screen, the right side, and they're on the top right side, the right side of the bracket looks stacked to me. Whoever's winning, I think, is coming from the right side of the bracket. And they're a new tag team. The fact that Triple H makes the conscious decision to have them debut in a tournament style against however many other teams that are already at least established characters, and has them win the first round, to me that says they're going to the finals. Doesn't guarantee a win, but they're at least getting to the finals. So, this is huge. Good for these guys.
What does MSK stand for?
We don't know.
Kind of.
Yeah, I don't think they made mention of that.
We don't know.
It might have something to do with marijuana because they had a weed gimmick in Impact, but
right.
Who knows?
Because there was what was BSK again?
Bone
Skull Crew.
Yeah.
Marijuana smoking crew.
Right.
Yeah,
maybe. That actually.
That makes sense.
People that smoke marijuana don't use the word marijuana.
Right. They get the tattoos like Undertaker has. They get the MSK across the stomach.
And you got the little weed plant on the stomach. I think that looked great.
Yeah.
Backstage, we get a Karrion Kross promo. Basically, he's coming for Finn Balor to top.
I like it. It needs some new blood up there.
Yeah.
At the top.
Then we get into Raj's favorite wrestler, Xia Li, versus a local competitor who they didn't even tell us who she was. Xia Li, 2 moves, 2 strikes. This week, actually, before she gets in the ring, she does a kata. She does her thing. Last week, she had daggers. This week, she has a bow. She hit a right hand, a kick to the face, and it was over. And the mysterious figure after the match shows her hand. It looks like a woman's hand. And Xia Li goes back and continues to beat down this poor woman. And until the mysterious figure is satisfied. So let's go to Raj on this one. What are your thoughts?
I actually liked it. I was just, but the person at the top of the ramp is a little cartoony, but it looked cool, and she looks cool. I thought that's what it should have been. It should have been a quick destruction. It's a new character in a way, And so I thought it was cool, easy to watch. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. This was a highlight last week. I like everything from the, the decoration of the Capitol Wrestling Center with the video boards and the smoke and the effects, to the camera blocking, which is getting real close into this mysterious figure. We come back out. Boa and Xia Li are standing there. They walk to the end of the ramp. Music changes. Xia Li does her moves. I'm all for this, and yeah, quick strikes. I'm in. This is probably top 3 highlight of me of what I'm looking forward to in NXT. I don't know who the mystery woman's going to be. It was definitely a woman you could see by the hands and the nails. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't care. I'm into this. I'm buying in. I like this. Yeah. There's some cartoonish stuff to it, but it doesn't come off as cartoonish. Like again, if I had the wife or the neighbor over, I'd be like, oh, check this out. And then Xia Li's following up with strikes that look pretty brutal. So I'm into this. I like this repackaging. I like the vignettes. I like what they're doing here.
To me, this is your new Undertaker in terms of the presentation, the quick striking, the fact that she's not selling a thing for now, and it's like getting your powers from the urn. She gets her powers from this mysterious character. I think there are far more parallels to this with the Undertaker than a Dexter Loomis or even the Fiend.
Well, I mean, Alfred, I think that's a great theory, and I don't want to. It's 11:32 Eastern time. I don't want to strike up a debate with Raj and I that'll go hours. But my fear is when Xia Li goes to the main roster, all of a sudden we get this
oh yeah,
it just becomes cartoonish. Or she's spitting the Great Muda Mist. As every Japanese character has to do according to Vince's rules. That's the worry. Is okay, this is again great in the context of NXT and in that world, but.
And then she'd get beaten the second weekend as well.
Yeah. Or she'll be Asuka's little sister, or
Yes.
Even though she's Chinese.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Even though she's Chinese, I'm like, oh.
Asuka flew from Japan to China as a teenager and trained Xia Li.
Oh God, let's not book any of this stuff.
Real quick. Chronoshaw bringing up Big Joseph saying that line. These rascals are high flying.
Oh, he did say that. Okay.
He did.
It's pretty funny. And then there was one more. MSK equals marijuana smoking kids. It's actually a movie from 1997. I have never heard that.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, well, we get another backstage promo revealing another team. Looks like Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter are going to be a team. They're going to face off, I believe, Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm. So that's going to be another team, the Women's Dusty Rhodes Classic. So they're just filling out those brackets. And then we get to them. And then we got the pull apart that I was talking about between Isaiah Swerve Scott and Jake Atlas before we get into the main event between Undisputed Era and Breezango. I thought this was a good match, solid tag team action. You're kind of waiting on your hands for Dunn, Lorcan, and Burch to come out. They attacked Kyle O'Reilly because they're really playing up. Kyle O'Reilly has a jaw injury, so they're really working over his jaw. They've got him pulled over one of the lighting rigs to really hurt his jaw. And then he ended up doing a little color. He's got bleeding from his mouth afterwards. But back in the ring, Fandango tries to take advantage of this. He leaps from the top rope, but he eats a super kick from Cole, and that's it. Undisputed Era wins in the first round. What did you think about this, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, a good match. I'm everything Adam Cole I'm a fan of. A little underwhelming as a main event, in terms of anything big to go off on. The most noteworthy thing here is Undisputed Era has a new color code of trunks and T-shirts. So, good match, but not a really big finish is really what I kind of settled this with. And do we know where the hell's Bobby Fish? Is Fish injured? What did I miss? Where's
Fish? He tore his triceps. I remember after War Games, he said that he tore his triceps. So I think he's rehabbing from that.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot that.
Yeah, I feel like Undisputed Era need more than different trunk colors they just need a fresh coat of paint, a new member, or drop someone. I just feel like they've been kind of doing the same thing for so long. It's I don't know. It's a little stale for me. I was kind of. They're always good in the ring. I just feel like as characters and as far as interest, it's kind of losing. It's kind of losing it for me.
I was looking forward to the idea of all four members of the Undisputed Era in the Dusty Rhodes Classic, and then eventually that leading to their breakup if they had to face each other. But that's not going to happen with Bobby Fish out. But yeah, this thing has ran its course a couple of times, I think.
That's a fun booking right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think this. I think Adam Cole is constantly limbo. I think that there's been several start and stops of we're going to take Cole to Raw or SmackDown. That changes. As long as it's in NXT, he's got the Undisputed group. I don't think that group comes with him when he goes. I think there's just like a constant. I think Cole's kind of like Gargano. It's kind of like I'm sure Raw and SmackDown creative and powers to be see we could use him to fill a spot, but I do think there's probably been some like reserve, even some Triple H was like, well, if you don't really need him, I could really use him here, type of thing.
Yeah, because the track record of smaller guys isn't always the best. If you do, Adam Cole is ultra charismatic, so that does help you out. That does overcome a lot. We've seen with Punk and Daniel Bryan, but they're exceptions to the rule. They're not the norm. So. Well,
and let's remember when there was the whole debacle of the main roster getting back home from Saudi for the plane. They had to call in the emergency of Cole came and main evented, I think, both the SmackDown and then a Raw, and it was a great showing. So it's like that just gives you a little hope of like, he can shine on Raw and SmackDown, but again, it's what's the creative, what's attached to him in terms of the creative for him. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
So that's your show. What did you guys think was a better show tonight?
Pretty equal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought NXT was pretty solid, but it was still, there was nothing that was like, oh wow, you had to have seen it. So yeah, I'd say probably, I thought it was maybe a little edge to NXT this week.
Yeah, I think they were both just kind of solid, okay shows, but I think there was more bad on AEW, so I give the edge to NXT, but nothing special on either show, really. They're just kind of getting started with this Dusty Rhodes Classic, so they're really putting that over tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, yeah, I would agree with that. So we'll see how the viewership comes out. Hopefully tomorrow by 4 or 5 o'clock Eastern time on Wrestling Inc. we'll have the viewership numbers of what comes out for Wednesday night. And again, and how does it fare against what was going on the rest of the TV guide. So some news real quick. I'll put out one real quick, and then I'll let Raj take the exclusive that Wrestling Inc. had. So there seems to be some interest in what is Ricochet's situation with WWE. There's some backstage chatter coming from the Wrestling Observer live show that Ricochet had signed a 3-year deal with WWE back in January of 2018. That would mean that now, January 2021, he is up any day now with his contract, and it's kind of a lot of speculation that Ricochet has not re-signed and won't re-sign. There's been talk about different talents, especially with the low ball that we've been hearing that WWE's been offering in this time to try to keep talent for a lower price during the pandemic, but they're trying to not let people go to AEW or elsewhere. Ricochet really hasn't been used in any kind of strong booking. So a lot of surrounding talk, Raj, of Ricochet could be out the door sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean Ricochet had kind of referenced those rumors on social media. He didn't outright say he had re-signed with WWE, but he didn't say, he just, I don't know, he was kind of shooting it down, but not really. It was kind of one of those denial kind of things. But,
he was like, don't talk about me. He didn't really he didn't really say it's not true. He was just like, stop talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of surprising because, his contract would be up this month. Yeah, usually WWE works well in advance to start getting people to sign. So, I mean, that could have been when we started seeing the real decline where he's losing Retribution every week. I don't think he's gotten a win on WWE TV on Raw in months. Him and a partner, maybe it was Dana Brooke, beat Retribution, but it wasn't him getting the win. I don't know. There's a lot of guys where you're like, oh, they'll be better in AEW or this and that, and then AEW has so many guys that you see guys go over and they're not Matt Hardy was never got to the main event, and Sean Spears, had the one big pay-per-view and was kind of down after that. And all, it's been a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, and my thing with Ricochet has been the guy does some incredible things in the ring, but my witty analysis is he moves like a stunt double, but he speaks like one. He's not somebody who's going to talk butts into the building, but he can do some crazy things. And you're right, AEW is so packed that virtually find me one star in AEW, find me one regular talent in AEW who's not part of a group. Even Darby Allin has Sting hovering over his shoulder. Everybody's part of a tag team or a threesome or a foursome or a fivesome or a sixsome. And so unless AEW is going to come out and say, yes, we have a second cable TV weekly show that's going to come out later this year, and we need more talent, they're packed. It's not a matter of money, but they're just packed to the gills in terms of how much TV time do we have.
Yeah, I mean, I can see them signing him for sure, but whether he
joins Best Friends,
right? Exactly. I don't see.
You know what I mean?
I don't. Yeah, I just don't see what they do with it. Obviously, he'd have some crazy matches there. I just don't know if he'd be used at a high level anytime soon.
But I do think the crazy matches would be enough to get him over in AEW. And I will say that if all else was equal and we were dealing with regular crowds and the indies were on fire the way they were before the pandemic, I would say Ricochet needs to leave and not turn back. Not even necessarily go to AEW, but just get out of here and reinvent himself in the indies the way Drew McIntyre did.
Well, who could use him is NXT.
For sure.
They could use some fresh blood at that top mix, and they seem so unwilling to send these underused guys down to NXT.
Well, and Alfred, you're right. If the indies were alive, if you had crowds going to shows, if I'm Ricochet, I can make this money but be, third tier in AEW. No, if I can be a guy who goes on the indies, commands whatever I want, works the main event, keeps all my intermission merchandising gimmicks, that's a great thing. But the fact that is, that we don't know when that's going to come back. We hope later this year, if our country and the world's better, that's a serious thing. So if his contract does expire this month, and he has no idea when that indie scene is going to come back, I don't know his financial situation. I hope he's okay. But if he's relying on, hey, I need to bring some money in quickly, that might change it all.
And again, right now with pandemic, who knows? But once things start changing, there's always New Japan, and you got Will Ospreay there, and he's got the history with. So
and Ring of Honor's coming back to TV too. Ring of Honor's trying to make some plays. Right. It seems they don't have Tony Khan money, but they
got Sinclair money.
They got Sinclair
money.
Yeah.
I will say really quickly, this should be a cautionary tale because you guys were talking about how great Johnny Gargano is as a heel, even though he looks like a natural babyface. Anybody wanting to get into WWE should have that heel gear to where if they quote unquote ruin you as a babyface, you could pivot to that. Bayley did it. Sami Zayn, I think, has been a good heel after being a natural babyface. Ricochet didn't have that gimmick, so it's not like he can go to being a heel after being ruined as a babyface because, to Justin's point, he doesn't have a good promo sensibility. So now he's kind of in this no man's land, and we're talking about his contract being up in 3 years in WWE, really not accomplishing much.
And it's always easier to get the people who hate you than love you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we had broken the story on Wrestling Inc. RUSH had been talking with WWE through AAA, and WWE decided to pass on him. I guess they felt he was asking for too much money. They didn't want to match his price. The offer that WWE had was apparently pretty lower than they expected. And we've been seeing that lately with WWE, with main roster talents or NXT talents moving to the main roster and renewals where it's not the big money that they were offering a year or two ago. So, so RUSH, I don't know if he has re-signed with ROH. You would think he has because he retained the ROH title at the last pay-per-view. His contract was either up last month or is coming up this month. And ROH, they've been announcing a bunch of signings, so I'm guessing we'll probably hear about them re-signing RUSH here very soon.
Yeah, I mean, more so than ever, it's becoming a thing of, do you want a guaranteed paycheck with such uncertainty of what your brand and your career is going to do, And again, your body is your instrument. Every year you lose, you're not getting any younger. So do you want to waste a couple years getting paid this guarantee to sit in catering or sit in mediocrity on main event? Or do you want to go to a lesser company in terms of distribution, but be a top dog, be a bigger fish in a smaller pond? So that's becoming a bigger situation. And I think this is the epitome of that right here.
Yeah.
And I like what he's been doing in ROH. I don't think he needs to go anywhere else necessarily. And there were those rumors, I think it was a couple of years ago, where Andrade had advised him not to come to WWE.
Yeah. I think it was last year. And look at where Andrade is right now. He's healthy. Yeah. He's good to go. And they're not using him.
Yeah,
and he's dating a protected talent in Charlotte.
Yeah.
He's one I do away from the Flair family, and he's still
right. Yeah, absolutely.
maybe he'll come in and he'll start to need Ric Flair as a sugar daddy like Lacey Evans.
At least that would make more sense. At least that would be realistic. That's another story. All right. Any final thoughts? Alfred, please put yourself over. You do such great work on Forbes and put yourself over. Plug.
Follow me on Twitter at This Is Nasty. Watch my articles on Forbes, Alfred Konuwa, and then YouTube Pro Wrestling Bits.
Awesome. Raj, plug the place.
Check out WrestlingInc.com. I'm sure most of you guys are already, but we appreciate it. We've had tons of exclusives, exclusive interviews all the time. We just recently had Candace Michelle, who talked about not being at the Raw Legends reunion, why she wasn't there. There's tons of great stuff, so keep checking out WrestlingInc.com, and we've got a bunch of big stuff planned for this new year.
You're not going to put over your cameo?
Right, yeah.
It's OnlyFans.
Yeah, that's OnlyFans.
All right, follow me at Justin LaBar. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll be on our Wrestling Inc. Daily with Nick Hausman. We'll talk about all the daily headlines that are coming about. And then Friday morning, I'll be back on Sirius XM's Busted Open Radio on Channel 156 with Dave LaGreca and Mark Henry. 10 a.m. Eastern if you want to listen live or check it out on demand. It is the Spar with LaBar segment. Thank you very much for watching here. Please share. Please leave a nice like or a comment. As Raj said off the top, thank you to Twitch and everybody who chimed in from that platform. This podcast went back Friday night after SmackDown.
And Matt Morgan will be back on Friday. He's traveling tonight, but he will be back on Friday.
There you go. Matt the Mayor is back on Friday for after SmackDown, which is one of the easier nights to get through if you're watching wrestling. Yeah. All right, for Alfred, for Raj, thanks everybody. Be safe, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.